welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, it's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome in, everyone, to another Field of 68 After Dark. Is that better, Rob Dauster?
It's your normal voice. Here we go. What's up with that?
He's been screaming at me about the intro for the last two nights.
intros.
Welcome in to another episode of the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM, live from Charleston outside TD Arena here in South Carolina. It has been a great weekend of hoops. For the Field of 68 tip-off, Paul Fritschner, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster with you for the last night from Charleston. And it was a weird game today, fellas, because it was tied at half. We didn't get the offensive performance from Charleston that we were expecting from a team that is one of the best offensive teams, at least to start the season, in scoring in the country, averaging almost 100 points a game. Only 29 points in the first half, ended up a Liberty 21-point win, 68-47 today in the Field of 68 tip-offs finale from Charleston. Year two of this event is in the books, and we're wrapping it up here on After Dark. Thanks to everybody for joining us here on a Sunday night. And we're going to start with this game that we just called on the Field of 68's YouTube channel about an hour ago. Liberty, a huge win after an overtime loss yesterday against Florida Atlantic. A big performance from Zach Cleveland, a monster night, Jeff.
Yeah, he was sensational. And not just him. I mean, listen, they had a bunch of contributions from guys all across the board, but I thought Zach Cleveland stepped up. And, you know, when we're talking about Ante Brzovic over and over and over, it was Zach Cleveland that was clearly the best player in the second half. He did everything. He was Mr. Versatility, blocking shots, throwing passes, making life easier for everybody, scoring when he needed to. As you said, you know, the straight line drives. And really, Charleston's defense was abysmal. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play great defensively. I thought that it was Liberty's ability to kind of figure out where they had mismatches and where they had advantages and continuing to exploit that. You know, they went to Zach Cleveland over and over and over again, and it worked over and over and over again. I thought that Isaiah Enan, coming in off the bench, hitting those 3 threes in the second half, he had 13 points. It was nice to see him kind of get it going a little bit. But overall, man, I think it's a little bit of a statement for how good, I guess, all three of these teams are, and especially Liberty. Going on the road in an environment like this and just taking the air out of the building and taking the air out of Charleston after they just went up and put 119 points on Florida Atlantic, I think says a lot. And, you know, that's a very, very good Liberty team that I think is going to make noise in Conference USA this year.
Zach Cleveland finished with 4 blocks in this game, and to your point about Isaiah Enan, to be able to step up when he hasn't shot the 3-ball well so far this season. I think he only had 1 made 3 on the year coming into tonight. He was like 1 for 11 on the season from 3, so to hit those shots now in the second half and to power yourself to a win. I mean, Lazar Djokovic leading Charleston in scoring. Ante Brzovic had 8 in the first half, finished with 10. Djokovic, the leading scorer for Charleston tonight. And you're starting to see maybe some steps from Lazar, played at Xavier last year, transfers here to Charleston this season. They're consistently looking for more out of Lazar, out of that huge physical body. Saw a little bit more of that tonight.
He was more aggressive, more assertive. You know, I think for Charleston, they were without Jackson Prunty. He didn't play. He's going to be out a couple weeks after dislocating his shoulder again for the second time in the last few weeks. And C.J. Fulton wasn't 100%, even though Dr. Rob did deem him healthy.
Yeah.
Did he play?
He did, but
did he play?
He did.
That's all I was saying is that he was going to play.
You did. But Dr. Rob's diagnosis might not have been completely 100% accurate because he was not himself. And for Ante Brzovic to be as effective as he can be, he has to have C.J. Fulton. He has to, because he's not a guy you can just give the ball to and say, hey, go make a play, right? A lot of what he gets is off entry passes, using angles from C.J. Fulton. It's off playing a two-man game with those guys.
Yeah, I agree with that part of it. I think I would give the credit to Liberty's defense there, because I thought that Ante got a lot of what he normally gets. There are a lot of times where he had a lot of stuff at the rim. He missed stuff at the rim.
True.
Lazar missed stuff at the rim.
Yep.
They weren't alone. There were a lot of guys that missed shots at the rim, and I think that the length and athleticism of Liberty's front line bothered them. And if there was a knock on this Charleston team, it's that there are times where they don't play up to the size and athleticism that I think they have. Like, they're never going to be a great defensive team. Like, they'll probably get better. But when you have a roster that's built around guys that are better offensively than they are defensively, then you're going to be a better offensive team than you are defensive. Like, it is what it is. But I thought that the way that Liberty was able to defend, I mean, Zach Cleveland said it in the post-game interview. When was the last time you saw Liberty get 9 blocks in a game? Two guys with 4 blocks. Yeah. You know, and the one thing that Richie McKay did say to us before we got to these games, before we got down here to this event, was that they made a concerted effort in the portal this year to go out and get bigger, to get longer, to get more athletic, and, as he put it, to not look like the JV team when they came out here in the Field of 68 tip-off, and they didn't. And I thought that Owen Aquino and Isaiah Enan and Zach Cleveland, those guys up front, really, really made a difference around the basket.
You know what else? I thought they were the mentally tougher team as well. I really did. They've got, some older guys, some who have played together. They've grown. They had a tough year last year, not just here, but making the transition into Conference USA. They seem like the mentally tougher team tonight. Now, again, I think Charleston can get there. But there's only 2 guys who have played together, and a lot of these other guys are young.
Yeah, you saw it early in the second half. There was a moment where Liberty took a 12-point lead, and I remember vividly Daywilk Tavares coming up the floor and being like, come on, guys, it's not over, let's go. And they ran off, and then he went and got a bucket, and Chris Mack called a timeout. It kind of felt like Charleston accepted their fate with about 18, 17, 16 minutes left in that game. We just said, I don't think this is our night, instead of trying to find a way to be able to make it their night. And I think that's something that just sometimes happens with teams. I think it's something
they
where
didn't impose their will on them. To me, you've got Ante Brzovic and Lazar Djokovic, who are 6'10", 6'11", and they never imposed their will. They got around the basket, but I don't know.
But those guys are that's not what they're wired to do.
They need to be better wired to be able to do that.
And they did it against Florida Atlantic, but Florida Atlantic is also their front line is more length and athleticism and finesse than what Liberty's front line is. Like, Owen Aquino's tough, man. You ain't backing him down, right? And I think that kind of got to Charleston a little bit. I think that their legs were gone a little bit. And I also just think, again, they got to a point where they're like, this is just not our night, and had just accepted their fate instead of continuing to fight. And I'll tell you this, that's going to be something that I promise you Chris Mack and this coaching staff is going to be hammering home for the rest of this week.
Fewest points that Charleston had scored in a game 8 years to the day. 47 points for a team that averages over 98 points a game on a young season. Right. On a young season,
they got a lot of offensive weapons, and they'll get better because, again, Darren Boyd looked like the Darren Boyd we thought we might get the other night in his first game back from 8.5 months off knee surgery.
Yep. All right. Any final thoughts on this game before we move on here?
I just credit to these coaches for this event. We said it on Friday night, but it has been a blast to do these the last 2 years. Yes. I cannot wait to get down to Lynchburg to do this again next
season.
season.
Do you think it is in Lynchburg right now? Have you checked the weather?
It's a little bit more. It's about the same temperature as it is here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's probably a little bit chillier. But
so I don't need to bring a heavy jacket. Or
no, you don't need to bring a heavy jacket. I think that you'll probably be okay.
No,
but I mean, look, the buy-in from these guys to do stuff like this is something that I think, one, needs to happen for teams that are at this level, right? You got to find a way to be able to get creative, to get people to pay attention to you, to be able to generate a little bit of revenue, be able to create another way to get money coming in for NIL and for collectives and for all of that, right? But it's no secret that at the mid-major level, you're not going to have the same kind of finances that the high major level does, and to be able to get teams, to be able to get the kids to either stay or compete with some of those higher level programs for some of these guys, like, you got to be able to spend a little bit, and you got to find a way to be able to create relevancy and create attention and create revenue. So credit to them for that. And I also just think stuff like this is fun, and it's what makes the sport special, right? Like, if you're going to college basketball to get you're not watching the best basketball players in the world play at the highest level. Like, if you're doing that, you're watching the NBA playoffs, right? It is what it is. It's the NBA for a reason. It's the best league of basketball. It's the most difficult job to find in the entire world. What makes college basketball special is the environments, is the passion, is the fans, is the student sections. It is these little micro communities that care about nothing more than just Charleston basketball. Last year, I don't think anybody would have expected to walk into Boca Raton and go to an FAU game and see a loud and raucous environment that was essentially a party for 2 hours every time that FAU played. So
These are three of the better mid-major programs in America right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they played against one another in a round-robin format, and more teams should be doing that.
Play on campuses. You can do it, I promise. It's not impossible to do.
Let's talk about the Pitino Bowl. Richard Pitino, and a big win for St. John's at Madison Square Garden. 22nd ranked Johnnies. It felt like every time New Mexico made a run in this game, St. John's had an answer. New Mexico kept cutting it to like a 6-7 point deficit, and St. John's would hit a shot. New Mexico would come back. They'd cut it down to a 5-6 point deficit. But the Red Storm always had an answer. It was a pretty good weekend overall, I thought, for the Big East. The Big East needed wins like these to keep the conference moving as you head in toward Feast Week and everything else. There had been some doubts, some question marks about the Big East here. You have one of your premier teams at Madison Square Garden in a matchup that had a ton of eyeballs on it on an NFL Sunday. Nationally broadcasted game. St. John's gets a double-digit win.
Yeah, and, like, they needed it for a statement. Right? I mean, not that New Mexico is going to set the world on fire this year. I think they're a good team, and they got two really good players in Donovan Nett and Nelly Jr. Joseph. But, you know, Rick Pitino a year ago, we all kind of thought it was going to just happen like that, right? Mm-hmm. Rick Pitino is going to take over St. John's. I remember saying it. I don't care who his players are. I'm going to rank them in the top 25.
You put them in the top 25 when they didn't have a team.
They didn't have a player.
They didn't have a player, and you put them in the top 25.
And now, you know what? They got players. They got dudes. They got NIL. They got themselves a backcourt with Kadari Richmond and Devion Smith, and R.J. Lewis was probably the best player in the court tonight overall. They got enough floor spacers. I'm kind of still a little bit concerned about their perimeter shooting.
Yeah, it's a
right?
problem.
A little bit.
It's a
like
problem.
Today they started slow. They made a couple late. Aaron Scott made a big one. I don't know, man. Like, I just think you got Rick Pitino and you got some dogs on your team.
Yeah,
you got some dogs.
Well, the way that St. John's is going to win this year is by just being tougher and more physical and making life difficult for you offensively and forcing turnovers and winning the rebounding battle and getting stuff done in transition. And there's going to be moments where they get open looks, and as long as they just get enough of them, that's all they need. Like, you don't have to come out here and be Creighton. You don't have to come out here and shoot 43s a game, right? You have to be able to make enough where it's at least a threat for a couple of those guys while doing all of the other stuff well. Like, I don't think that it should be – R.J. Lewis had 21 points, 11 boards, and 7 assists tonight, right? He got pretty close to a triple-double, and he is probably the third most likely guy on that team to get a triple-double. Like, you have three creative, athletic playmakers on that perimeter that are old, right? You have guys like R.J. Lewis and Kadari Richmond who are just a nightmare defensively. And as long as they are doing –
Smith. I mean, Devin Smith's terrific. I mean, that's the one thing.
Different kind of defender, yeah, but he's still –
get up in you.
Yeah, they are really, really good on that end of the floor, and I really like this team. I think that the lack of shooting probably limits their ceiling, but I think that everything else they do well, it makes them good enough to be – that's why they're ranked in the top 25. That's why they look like a tournament team. That's why they're winning games. I mean, New Mexico had there were a couple possessions where they tried to make a run in that second half, and it felt like they were on the verge of it.
Get within like 4?
No, they got within 5 once, and that was it. But it was one of those things where it just kind of felt like Big Brother was just kind of holding them off like this, right? And
Big Brother or Dad?
Whatever it was. It's just like you knew who the top 25 can make a run, a deep run in the tournament. Like, it was obvious who the better team was tonight. And I don't even think St. John's probably got past like third gear, right? I don't think we saw the best version of St. John's, and they just kind of went in there on a Sunday afternoon stroll and took care of business against a team that's probably – look, I think New Mexico is going to be a tournament team.
So Kadari finishes with 14. I know there have been a lot of chatter about Kadari Richmond leading into this game. Kind of where are your guys' thoughts on Kadari and what his role is for this team and how that evolution of Kadari Richmond in a Red Storm uniform helps St. John's overall?
So we've all wondered how it would work with Kadari Richmond and Rick Pitino, right?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't worked great at the previous places, I would say, is fair to say. Like, he's fought it a little bit. Well, he's with Rick Pitino for 8 months, and I think he understands that I have to buy in. If I'm going to play at the next level, I have to buy in. And, again, he's going to do that. He's going to do that. It's just a matter of time. But, again, Kadari Richmond doesn't need to average 20 points a game or anything like that.
Yeah.
The beauty of this team is they have balance. They've got 5 guys that I think can hurt you for the most part. And but Kadari, again, I think it's going to be a gradual process for him. And by league play, man, that backcourt is going to be like for the Big East, especially in the defensive end, what they can do. I wouldn't want to go against them.
Yeah, and I also think with Kadari, he understands when you're playing against Wagner, he doesn't need to go out there and get 20 and win a game for you.
And he's probably not going to because he's kind of the guy that might play up and down the level of competition a little bit.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, and
he's been around long enough.
I know he hasn't been scoring, but he's still averaging 7 rebounds and 7 assists. Like, it's not like he's out there not producing.
Yeah.
And they're winning games. Like, I
don't.
Bye
games.
Right? That's my thing. Is
you
like
can't evaluate off these bye games. Generally.
No, and they're beating the Braves. It's not like they're. It'd be one thing if Kadari wasn't scoring and they needed like a buzzer beater to beat Quinnipiac, or they were down by 7 late against Wagner and had to make a run to come back, and Kadari wasn't doing anything. But they're just rolling over these teams, and he's kind of out there making sure that, like, just the steadying force. And we'll know more starting on Thursday. They get Baylor at the Baja Mar something, or I can't remember which one they're in.
But Baja Mar.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's
called.
called.
Whatever it is, they'll be in the Bahamas, and they get Baylor. And so we'll find out more about them from this event coming up this week. But if I'm a St. John's fan, I feel pretty good about where they are right now and what they can end up being this year.
All right. Let's move on. St. Mary's and Nebraska. St. Mary's a 3-point win over Nebraska. This one was in Sioux Falls, up at the Pentagon. 3-point win for St. Mary's in a neutral site game. Kind of a high-scoring first half in this one, and Nebraska put it on them, and then St. Mary's made a run there in the second half, got to win, got a slim win.
And what might as well have been a road game for St. Mary's. Like, there was a lot of Nebraska in there. There was a lot of Go Big Red in that building. I think, and I fell victim to this too, right? In the offseason, we all saw St. Mary's, and we thought, you know what? They're losing Aiden Mahaney.
Yeah.
They're losing Josh Jefferson. Like, how is this team going to be able to – they're losing 2 of their best players. How is this team going to find a way to be able to make it work? Well, you know what?
They have Randy Bennett.
Augustus Marshallonis, who I don't know how many people realize this. Augustus Marshallonis was actually the WCC Player of the Year last year, right? He was the best guy in that conference. They bring back Mitchell Saxon, another guy in the middle, one of the best defensive players that you're going to find, right? You have your ball screen point guard. You have your 5-man that can anchor – Randy Bennett's defense. And then they went out and they brought in 2 guys that I think are really important to mention here. One, Miles Kelly, who came off the bench today, had 23 points, a freshman point guard who can really go. I think he's even surprised Randy. He spoke well of him. I don't think he spoke quite this highly of him when we saw them at WCC Media Day. But the guy he was fired up about was Paulus Morauskas, the transfer from Arizona, came into this game averaging 18 and 13. I think he had, was it 16 and 9 tonight?
He had 16-6.
16-6 tonight, and he's been a really impactful four-man right next to Mitchell Sack. Like this team, Randy Bennett is very, very good.
Finally got there. He finally got to Randy Bennett.
Well, yeah, but it's also like, yes, Randy Bennett is a great coach. But also, like, the transfer that he brought in from Arizona has been a stud. And it doesn't always go that way for some of these high-major transfers that move down. There's plenty of examples of guys that have not worked out at the level that Paulus is working out right now for St. Mary's. And we left – when we were at the Pentagon and saw Santa Clara up there, we left there thinking that they were going to probably be in the mix for a tournament team. And they have not had a great run of it since beating Robbie Avila and St. Louis. They've lost 3 in a row. Gonzaga is Gonzaga, and they're always going to be Gonzaga, and they might be the best team in the country, not just the best team in the WCC. But I'll tell you this. St. Mary's has a chance to be able to make a lot of noise this year when you have a point guard like Marshall Onis, when you have a front line like they have, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I think St. Mary's is a top 25 team.
I remember sitting with Randy Bennett at an AAU tournament in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I said that to him. I'm like, man, you got to be miserable right now. You lost Aiden Mahaney to UConn. You lost Joshua Jefferson to Iowa State. This sucks. You guys don't have the resources to keep some of these guys money-wise. And he looked at me and he's like, we'll be just fine. We'll be just fine. And, Randy Bennett is a guy. Give him the three of us and Dagan Hughes over there and Trevor Valise, and he's somehow going to find a way to make us competitive. He's that good a coach. And, again, Augustus didn't even play great today, and they won that game.
Yeah, Mikey Lewis, 23 points. Just stud. All right, next one up. We going to Boise State and Clemson?
Yeah,
Let's take a break. Take a break.
Take a break, Paul.
Well, I don't know. You guys were rolling.
take a break.
I didn't want to cut you guys off. You're rolling, and we're rolling, but we got to take a break first. Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark here from TD Arena in Charleston, South Carolina. Paul Fritschner, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster with you. We've been talking hoops, recapping the weekend and recapping a Sunday in college basketball, and we're going to keep it going now with Boise State. A win today over Clemson, an ACC game, and a nice win for the Mountain West. Boise State 84, Clemson 71. Tyson Degenhart, a double-double, 20 points, 11 boards for Degenhart, and a 13-point win for his Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Degenhart, he loves me. He doesn't like Rob. He has yet to invite him. Tyson Degenhart has one of the best college basketball podcasts out there, Paul. And I've been on it. And, Rob still hasn't gotten the invite, and he's very, very, very upset. But Tyson, huge game today. You know, listen, he's a guy at this point in his career, he should be dominating in games like this. He's older. He went to the glass today. He hasn't – the thing I love about him now is he hasn't shot it as well from three the last couple of years as he did as a freshman, and he's not falling in love with it anymore. He's bigger, he's stronger. So he's figuring out that, like, that's not always my bread and butter. I'm going to go inside and do some work. And this was a big, big win for Boise.
Yeah, and not just for Boise, for the Mountain West overall, too. You know, the thing last year, the reason why the league was able to get to 6 bids was because of all of the work that they did in the non-conference. And it made it so that there were a number of teams in there that all had metrics that did not get hurt when they played each other and when they lost to each other in league play. Because you're going to beat up on each other in league. That's what the Mountain West does, right? You have all of these great home court advantages, all of these really good teams, all of these guys that are Power 5 talents that end up trying to find a new home. That's often what happens and what you get in the Mountain West. And you got to be able to win some of those games in the non-conference to be able to get out there and have a chance at an at-large. And getting a win over a Clemson team that probably is going to look like what's the worst case scenario for them? Probably like top 6 in the ACC. They're probably a tournament team, I would say.
I think so.
Getting a win like this is going to look really good come Selection Sunday. And also, credit to Brad Brunell for playing this, man. Like, how often do you see a team, a high major coach, willing to go across the country to play a home-and-home with a program as good as Boise State is?
You know why? He wanted some Chislik. That's why.
That's South Dakota, not Idaho.
Oh, they're in Idaho. Why did I think they were in South Dakota at the Pentagon?
Real?
Are you serious right now?
Yeah. I don't know why I thought they played at the Pentagon. Didn't we just talk about the Pentagon?
Yeah, we did. Oh,
St. Mary's, Nebraska was at the Pentagon. My bad. For some reason.
Oh, I thought you thought Boise was in South Dakota.
I did. I forgot that they were at Boise.
You thought Boise was in South Dakota?
No, I didn't think Boise. I thought they played the game in South Dakota.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I'm just going to move
Listen,
right on.
we're gonna keep this one.
It's not quite my bedtime, but it's getting close. It's 7:44. My bedtime
we already know.
Is the reminder going to go off? Yeah.
Well, it might go off soon.
No, but the credit to Brad Rennell for even playing that game. We need more of that. Like, don't be afraid. This loss is not going to hurt Clemson at all. You went on the road and you lost to a team that's probably going to end up somewhere in like the 30s in the metrics, right? This is going to go down as a mid-level quad 1 game. If anything, that's going to make their net numbers look better and get improved from just playing the game.
I'd be interested to get Brad Brunell's take on why he did it, though. Like, it is – listen, I'm with you. I love it. But it's one of those where you look at it and you're like, wow, okay. Like, because
you want to know why
leagues are playing more games now, right? There's so many matchups that are predetermined. You have more league games. You know, you have these other matchups that are already predetermined, so you only have a little bit of scheduling flexibility. To play this game on the road like that against a really good Boise team with Degenhart and Omar Stanley back, boy, I don't know if I would have done it.
Do you think when Tyson Degenhart and Ian Shefflin were guarding each other, they were trading notes on hairstyles?
All right. Next one. Well, actually, before we go to anything else, let's talk more about the Mountain West because they have a big one again tomorrow night. Another home game for the Mountain West. Gonzaga coming into town into San Diego to take on the Aztecs. That'll be at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, Monday night, for those of you maybe listening to this later. 10 o'clock Monday night, Gonzaga at San Diego State in a huge one.
All right, I'm going out on a limb here. I'm taking the Aztecs at the Viejas Center. I am. I'm telling you, it is hard to win at the Viejas Center. It is a major home court advantage. Everybody's been on Gonzaga this. You heard him. What did he say earlier? They might be the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
They barely beat Arizona State. Yes, they boat race Baylor. I'm telling you, I'm calling it right now. San Diego State wins this game in the upset.
We'll see. I mean, look, San Diego State is a really good team. They're going to be playing in front of a raucous environment. The show is as good of a student section as you're going to find anywhere in college basketball. I think Gonzaga finds a way to be able to get this thing done because I think that, look, they have arguably the best point guard in college basketball, right? I don't know if he is.
I love what he does.
I think
Braden Smith. He
Nembhard's,
might be. I'm not sure. Nembhard might be. I know. There's a bunch of guys.
Nembhard's in that conversation.
Yeah, there's
without
a
doubt.
bunch of guys.
Nembhard's in that conversation.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many front lines in the sport are better than Graham Ike, Braden Huff, Ben Gregg, and Michael Ajayi. There's so many different looks. There's so many different ways they can play you. There's so many different things that you have to worry about if you're an opponent. You can't double-team Graham Ike because he'll pass out of it. You have to double-team Braden Huff because he'll score if you don't. They have Caleb Battle, who has been terrific. You know, he's really bought into this idea of being a Gonzaga basketball player and what it means to kind of not have everything completely revolve around just him.
Sure.
Nolan Hickman is a terrific role player at this level. Dusty Stromer doesn't miss. I think that this is
talent-wise. I hear you. I'm just saying. I think maybe the Zags are just kind of walking around thinking like, all right, this is going to be an easy one.
I don't think. I think that they're smart. They've played enough games against San Diego State over the years that they know that it's not going to be an easy one.
but this San Diego State team does not have the names. They don't.
Isn't this a future Pac-12 matchup?
It is. It is.
The Pac-12 battle between Gonzaga and San Diego State.
Pac-12 After Dark lives on.
So we have a Pac-12 battle between Gonzaga and San Diego State, while USC and Cal right now are playing an intra-conference Big Ten ACC matchup on the Big Ten Network.
That's a huge
What the hell is going on in this sport?
What happened to what we loved?
We used to be a real country, Paul.
Yeah, we did.
All right, Mountain West. Any more thoughts on the Mountain West before we move on here?
Well, it's just going to be interesting to see because if San Diego State can get a win like this, coming off the Boise State victory over Clemson, it gives the league a lot of momentum. And again, we talked about it. Obviously, they're not going to get 6 next year. But, can they get 4 and be in position, 4, maybe 5? Like, I think 4 is the number that probably if you're the Mountain West, you're, like, okay with, right?
Yeah, I mean, 6 is
6 is – no.
That's a heavy lift.
Right.
But I think if we're talking San Diego State, if you're talking Nevada, who's been really good, by the way, quietly under the radar, if you're talking Boise State, if you are talking New Mexico, and then I don't want to count out Colorado State yet. I think that the replacing Isaiah Stevens is going to be a big lift. I don't know if they'll be able to get back to the tournament, but I think this is probably going to end up being a 4-bid league if they can continue to do things like beat Clemson for Boise State.
New
Nevada
Mexico beating UCLA.
Yes, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
Nevada got they got Santa Clara and they beat Washington, and they've been good. And look, San Diego State, if they can get this thing done against Gonzaga tomorrow,
big one,
big one, big game for them.
All right, let's wrap up the weekend here as we kind of finish off what was the Field of 68 tip-off here from Charleston. A great weekend, 3 games in 3 days. And we had a great slate on Friday night, which I think told us a lot. We saw Alabama and Purdue. We saw some good games yesterday, Xavier and Wake. And then here today, wrapping up the weekend, right out here, Charleston, Liberty in a pretty good mid-major battle that Liberty took on and won by 21. Any big picture thoughts for you from a 10,000-foot perspective on what we learned around the sport this weekend?
Well, I just think it's what we've learned overall so far this season, which is with the amount of turnover that there's been on these rosters, with the NIL factor in and social media and everything like that, I'm not sure there's going to be a dominant team this year. I think we thought like Kansas and Alabama are going to be 2 steps ahead of maybe the next group. Houston already lost at home to an Auburn team that we didn't know how good they were going to be. UConn hasn't played anybody yet. Iowa State has not played. Dan Hurley, TJ Otzelberger, play somebody early. Now, it's all going to ramp up here soon, right, around Feast Week or in the next week or two. Everybody, there's nowhere to hide, Dan Hurley. You can no longer hide.
Why are you yelling at me? Do you think I have any input on their schedule? You're yelling at me like I'm the one that's saying, hey, you know what? You guys go play New Hampshire. Go play East
That's
Texas
who they're
A&M State, A&M
they're
Commerce. It's something that's who they're playing on Tuesday.
Is that was that formerly Texas A&M Commerce?
Yeah, and it changed like a week ago.
Really?
We talked about this last month. Yeah.
Oh, I missed
now
that.
it's East Texas A&M State or something like that, whatever it is.
What's their nickname, Dagan?
I have no idea.
The Lions.
Lions. All right.
Yeah. They got Maui coming up. They have Gonzaga at the Garden coming up. There's a bunch of they'll be tested here.
Yeah,
they'll be tested here coming up. Just the way that the schedule worked out, and I get why you lose 4 NBA guys. You want to start with some of these bye games. I just wish it wasn't teams in the 300s.
Come on.
I wish it wasn't teams in the 300s. And I wish that again I ranted about this last night, but it's like the complete lack of quality non-conference games on your own campus. And it's not just UConn. It's everybody doing a lot of this stuff. So
not everybody.
Credit to the coaches like Nate Oates, like Matt Painter, like Brad Brunell, like the guys that were here,
Bruce Pearl, these guys,
like going out there and challenging themselves and playing stuff on campus. That's what makes college basketball great. It's the environments, man. No one. If you want to watch the best basketball players in the world, you're watching the NBA. If you want to watch the best environment in American sports, you're watching college basketball games on campuses.
Paul, are you happy? Because at first you declined our invitation. You declined our invitation to come out here to Charleston and host these 3 games and also host After Dark. And according to my sources,
yes,
and I have plenty around you, plenty of sources in that Xavier program and around it, they told me that you were very nervous to work with one Robert Dauster.
But the nerves have been calmed, right? You saw me open the show tonight. You've been screaming at me about screaming at
He
you
opened the
guys.
show so well tonight. Field of 68 After Dark
That's
here
right.
live.
That's right. I will not
Charleston,
be
South
apologizing
Carolina.
for anything. I'm not apologizing for anything. Thank you guys for inviting me down here. I appreciate it. John Fanta, we were talking at Big East Media Day, and yeah, initially I didn't think I would be able to get out of doing that game yesterday at Xavier with my responsibilities. It's a little tough sometimes when you're the in-arena host to find somebody that can talk to 10,000 people. But shout out my guy Adam Baum for filling in for me yesterday so that I could come down here and do this. I got word that he did a pretty good job up there at the Cintas Center. So thanks to him. Thanks to you guys for having me on. Want to do Toast of the Night before we sign off?
I'm toasting you, man.
Thanks.
I'm toasting you. I mean that.
Thanks.
I mean that. You did a hell of a job.
Thanks, fellas.
Really, really happy we brought you down here, and we'll continue the relationship.
Appreciate it. Well, Rob, anything before we sign off?
My toast is going out to Paulus Morauskas and the – why are you laughing?
I don't know. I just went from toasting Paul.
Paulus. Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, crushed it. He hit 16 points tonight. St. Mary's got to win. I'll be honest, I wasn't ready for a toast, so I just went the first win that we –
Paulus.
Yeah,
It was close
wasn't
enough.
ready. I didn't even think
To
about it.
Paulus.
All right, I'll toast the 3 coaches that played in this event because we were able to put on a pretty good event this weekend. Dagan, I know a ton of work over here to get all this set up. We have
Don't give Dagan that much. He didn't do it. He sat around and did like nothing this entire weekend. He did a lot of shopping.
Hey, he watched Seton Hall hold Wagner to 28 points.
28 points.
He did a lot of shopping. He took a lot of walks.
Right. A lot of walks.
A couple afternoon naps.
It's a beautiful city, and you have to trust us that there's a beautiful view back there somewhere. If we were doing the Field of 68 before dark, you would have seen it,
right.
but this is after dark, so you didn't see it. I'm Paul Fritschner signing off. That's Rob Dauster. That's Jeff Goodman. Dagan Hughes is over here to my right. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening all weekend long. You can continue to watch, subscribe, everything here to the Field of 68 After Dark presented by BetMGM. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Now get the hell out of